Hello and welcome to today's Confessions of a Global Changemaker show. Stop what you are doing. I was on the edge of my seat when Vishal and I were talking about him coming on the show, because I interview everybody before they come on the show. And Vishal told me his story and I was on the edge of my seat. Seriously, whatever you are doing, whatever time it is, day, night, whatever, if you're watching the replay, make it a priority to put everything else off and watch this interview. Because if you want to know about resilience, bouncing back, going through like the most horrendous life experiences and still coming out the other side of it with a fantastic business that is changing lives all over the world, you want to listen to this interview. Today, I am so excited to be joined by the amazing, I call him the Fitnesspreneur, Mr. Vishal Soni. Vishal, welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you for bringing me on this show.
Where are you calling in from today? You're in some amazing place in the world.
Right now, I'm living in Fujairah, which is in United Arab Emirates. So yeah, this is the city where I'm calling you from right now.
Amazing. Well, Vishal, thank you for carving the time out to be with us today. I think you have a story that is just going to inspire the socks off. Like, I was literally, when I was listening to Vishal tell me his story when we were talking about him coming on the show, my jaw was just dropped. It was like, and then what? And then what? And then what happened? I mean, Vishal, you've gone through a lot for a person of your age. Like, how old are you?
I'm going to be 25, 19th July.
Right. So your birthday is nearly coming up. Vishal, most people can get through an entire lifetime and live to 90 and not have half of the experience that you have. I want to delve into some of this because, you know, I think it's really important to remind ourselves that no matter what is happening, no matter what you go through, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is resilience inside of us. And I'm sure that there's some elements of your story as we delve into them today, where there were times where you thought you couldn't take any more, but then you still went that extra mile and you're still here. I mean, there are a lot of people that take their own lives after even the first part of what you went through. So let's touch on that first of all. You were severely bullied at a young age, weren't you? Pretty much from when you remember, you've been bullied. So, like, I mean, I just don't understand how somebody could come through something that bad. I mean, it wasn't just the normal kind of poking and pulling your tie, was it? I mean, we're talking severe bullying.
Right, that's true. Because initially I was staying here with my parents when I was doing my education. So until 9th standard, I was there with my parents here in the same city, going to a school in which my sister used to go as well. But since my education wasn't good, when I reached 9th standard, that's the time when my parents decided that for the 10th grade, they'll send me to India to pursue my higher studies. So I was always that kid who had a friend circle which was decent. Like, we had all well-mannered children and stuff. And my parents used to, like, they didn't used to pamper me, but I was dependent upon my mother, like, for the general things, like, you know, she's gonna iron my clothes, the food is gonna be ready, whatever I want will be there and stuff. But that all changed suddenly when my parents decided that they'll send me to a boarding school, all with the hopes of letting me improve my character, like being better at studies when I'll be independent. So they had high hopes from that. Whereas when I went to a boarding school in India, things completely changed. Things were like, I knew that it was going to get bad, but I didn't know it was going to get this bad. Because
Vishal, I mean, obviously, as a parent, like, how many of you are parents that are watching the show right now, or watching or listening to the replay? As a parent, we just want to do the best for our kids, don't we? But I know a lot of people who have gone through boarding school education. This isn't everybody, but I know a lot of people, and everybody that I know that has been to boarding school, they don't have good things to really say about it. It just seems to be like a very dictatorial Victorian way of like discipline, and it seems to be, I don't know how many of you went through boarding school watching or listening to this that had a great experience. I'd love to hear that side of things. I haven't heard that many good things, but obviously your parents, they're sending you there because they have so much love for you and they want you to really have the best life, and then
Right.
you have the worst life. Do they know what you went through?
Initially, they didn't, because the other side of my life was that while I was having my education until ninth standard in the same city, I had gradually become silent. Like I had stopped sharing my things because I was continuously told by my parents that, be like your sister because your sister is too good with studies. She's talented. She's more social.
Ouch.
So, like most people are there in this situation as
Compare and
well, where you
despair.
have an elder brother or sister and you're being compared to that. So I was in that stage. But what really made me silent was that I tried studying hard every time for my exams, but yet I failed or got low grades. And in return, my parents always used to say that, you need to try harder, you're not trying harder, you need to study like your sister and stuff. So ultimately, whenever I used to try to explain that I tried my best, and that used to come, so that made me silent. I became silent, feeling that, even if I share my things, even if I share my opinion, it's not going to matter. It's going to be the same things coming back to me. So
Well,
I'd
let's
become
think
silent.
about this though, Vishal, before we move on, because I want to highlight the important points that the statistics of suicide in
Right.
teenagers that are academically feel like they're not keeping up, or they're not as good as everyone, at the whole compare and despair. The suicide in teenagers is enormous. It's enormously high. So first of all, I just want to commend you for still being here, because there are other people that didn't make it through, and I pray for them that that because you weren't just, because it almost feels like you were being a bit bullied by your parents, and you're being bullied at school.
That's true.
Your parents doing it for what they thought was the right reasons, but actually all it ended up with you just being bullied and more bullied. Well, you
Right.
come through that, and I love your story. I'd love to tap into the bit where your bullies are really, like, they're getting worse, and
Right.
you decide that you're going to learn to defend yourself. So you start
Right.
getting fit. So tell us
Fit.
about that journey.
Right. So I had gone into India into that boarding school, and I started to observe that the environment was completely different. The kind of people were different, the way how they're speaking, like it was all with cursing words and stuff. So I wasn't used to that. So I was all well mannered.
It'd be the opposite.
Yeah, I was like the complete opposite, and hearing that and seeing people be normal with these kind of things really made me think about it, that I'm in a completely different environment. But instead of trying to adapt to that situation, I wanted to just adjust, because if I had to adapt, I would have learned what they were doing, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to keep my ethics. So
Mhm.
after a while, like just to tell you what happened with me, for 6 days within the hostel, I had not interacted with anybody, because I, as it is, was silent. I wasn't that person who would come
So
forward
hang
and
on,
talk to
back up a
somebody.
minute. You're living in a hostel at this stage.
Yeah,
You living in a hostel going to boarding school.
actually, what I meant by boarding school is like the school and the hostel is together in the same premises.
Got it. Got it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So from the hostel, we go to the school. It's like that. So
got it.
while I was in the hostel for 6 days, I had not interacted with anybody, because I was, as it is, silent person. Like I didn't want to go and interact with anybody. So for 6 days, I was all silent, trying to observe whatever is happening. Although it wasn't normal for me, but still I was trying to get used to it. On the sixth day, it was vacation, and I was just walking by the corridor within a hostel. And like, since it was the vacation, I was feeling bored. I was just passing by, peeping into everybody's room. We had a small window in every door, so I was trying to see what everybody is doing. I came across one room which had like around 8 to 10 people in it, and I do not know what they were doing. Still, do not know. But I tried to, like, that caught my attention, so I tried to peep in it. But what happened because of that was, like, one person spotted me, and he directly came out of the room, and I started walking back my way, like I didn't see anything. But he came out and he started cursing at me, like he started saying bad things to me, saying that, what are you trying to do and stuff. I first tried to politely ask him not to say bad words. Then I tried to ask him politely but with a higher tone. Nothing worked, and then ultimately all I could say at the end was, you better shut up. That's the that's the most thing that I could say. So after that, he just got aggressive. Like he knew he was enjoying that because I wasn't saying anything. So when things started to go bad, our tones increased. Like all the people from the room came outside, and like one of the guys suggested that, if you want to solve this problem, why don't you come inside the room, talk it out peacefully? Why you're making a noise in the corridor? Now I wasn't that smart enough. Like I haven't been in that environment. So when he said that, I was like, this guy knows. This guy has some brains. So he gave that advice, and I went inside the room. Everybody came inside, and then I was the second last person, and the last person was the one who was arguing. When I went inside, he locked up the door and he just started preparing to fight. He removed his shirt and stuff. And he was a sports person. I, at that time, was extremely, most of my initial childhood has been extremely skinny. And at that time, I was skinny. So he started to prepare for a fight. And like within just 5 minutes, I remember I was on the ground. He held my hair and just banged my head on the floor. I couldn't do anything. Like I had never had an
Nobody
experience.
tried to stop it.
Yeah, nobody. Like they were enjoying, of course. That was the group. That group was actually a friend circle, so they were enjoying that. So he just banged my head on the floor, and that's the first time when my everything in front of my eyes, open eyes, became black in my life. So uh, for a moment, I was completely blank. I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know why I cannot see anything. And then some people from that group started shouting, hey, calm down, like don't do too much and stuff. So then he stopped. I got up. I went to my room and I slept. So from that day onwards, I started to feel real. Like I was not adjusted to that environment, and now it became even worse. Now I started to feel lonely. Now I started to also have fear in me. So
well, I mean,
and
it's
that
your home. Like you're meant to feel safe at home, and there you are. You're going back to this place where that incident happened, and not only a constant reminder of that, but also the humiliation, all of the things that happened there. It's just not right. But I don't know. I mean, you're just so brave to have continued going and doing that. The courage just to even think about going back after that is enormous. I want to just kind of take a moment to really compare this situation with business, right? Because we go into business and we can get bullied in business. And there are things that can happen. You can go into a meeting and it not work out how you wanted it to work, and somebody has the higher ground. And especially when you're new in business and you don't know, as you say, the ethics, you don't know, you're in a new environment, you can get thrown around a lot as a new business owner. You can get thrown around a lot as an established business owner. You don't have to be new for that kind of thing to happen. But I just want to compare those two situations right now, because everything you're describing also happens in business. And it's the resilience, it's how you get through that. Well, you made a clear decision that you were going to get fit. You were protect yourself. You were going to get fit. As business owners go, I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to build a fit business. I'm going to learn what are the things I need to do to survive this course. So tell us about this step.
Yeah. So the 6th day itself, I got beat up in hostel. I started to develop fear, and as you said, that makes you feel insecure in front of everybody. So that was the day when I got beat up. But after that, every day became a day when I was bullied, because as soon as I got beat up, the word just spread that this new kid, because I was only the new kid in 10th standard. There was one more guy, but he was very cool enough with everybody. I do not know how that happened, but I wasn't. So the word spread that he was this guy, this new guy and stuff. Like we did this with him. So maybe they started bullying me because of that reason, and they started teasing me for the way how I looked, the way how I talked, the way how I walked. Everything, like anything about me, they could target that and just tease me with it. They could bully me with it anywhere, anytime, like be it in the mess, be it at the sports ground, anywhere.
This is like the online world with trolls, right? So it become an influencer. You'll get people that will say anything, will do anything online to try and bring you down or to destroy your confidence. So again, there's this kind of parallel for people that are watching or listening, that there's this fear that when you become an influencer that you'll get these trolls. But I think the people that I've experienced that get trolls, that have that happening to them, I think they've gone through this journey you're going through, and it's actually when you become resilient against it, when they don't even exist in your world, they don't even continue to try.
Right.
So you're going every day, you're living in this bullying nightmare.
Yeah. It went on for about a month, and then I decided, like, it went on for about a month and nothing
A
was
long
improving.
time.
Yeah. So for a month I was just suffering, and then like a self-realization hit me, because obviously when things are just keeping on going, there were times in my head when I was thinking that, maybe I should tell my parents that I'm suffering, just call me back. But somewhere in my head, like, there was a voice telling that that's not an option. Like, they'll not listen to you probably, like automatically. But then after a month of suffering, like, a self-realization came that maybe I'm being bullied because I look different. Maybe I'm too skinny. So that's where maybe I should start working on. So at that time, I didn't have any internet or any, like, we didn't have those facilities in our hostel. So what I did was, all I could do was just try to recall the scenes from the movies which I have watched before, and just started to work out from that. So I used to work out secretly. I wasn't comfortable working out in front of anybody, because I knew that that would be a topic for getting teased as well. So I started
Yeah.
working out, like, in the room whenever I was alone, between the buses which was behind our sports field. I used to go there alone and just work out between the buses. So for about a week or two, I was regular with that, and I had some determination that, I can improve my life now. Maybe this is my starting. So I started doing some basic exercises, but I got spotted after 2 weeks. And when I got spotted by some kid, he spread the word in the hostel, and that became a topic to tease me again, because of course I looked skinny and I was trying. So
Oh,
that became a
God.
good joke for them to tease me. So immediately as that happened, I just gave up again, because I had no choice, because I knew that they would come to the same spots and try to search for me if I'm working out and tease me instantly. So I had to give up, and I was again feeling that I was in a darker place in my life now, and nobody around me, and I couldn't share anything with anybody. Like, I couldn't even complain to the warden, because I knew that that makes me a complaint box, which happens in school life. So I didn't want to do that.
Because
This went on.
you're just like a pinball, aren't you? By this point, in a pinball machine, like doink,
Yeah.
doink, doink, doink. Like, where do I go? It's every avenue is a closed one. Like,
Yeah,
you
that's true.
literally, your existence is exactly that. You weren't
That's
living,
true.
were you? You couldn't be living. Everything you wanted to do, you had to stop doing.
Yeah,
I mean, like, what was it that motivated you to keep going? Because most people would totally give up, and some people
that's true.
unfortunately do. What is it about you that, and I don't know if you've been able to pinpoint it. What is it about you that you've been able to tap into that gets you through that? What's your strategy for when shit hits the fan? It's all coming at you. Like, what's your strategy for dealing with that? Because you must
Uh,
have one. You're still here.
that's true. If I had to pinpoint at something which makes me keep going on, I would say that from my childhood, initially, like from my childhood days, I have been through so many problems. Like, everybody has frustration in their life. When something is not going right, they have frustration building up in them. The same was going on with me. But it's all about how you channel that frustration. So that
Channeling.
frustration initially for me was education, not being right at it, hearing the complaints from the parents. And then the frustration was because of being bullied, because of being alone in that place. But I channeled that, like, when the frustration just got to that point, I channeled it as, okay, let me start improving at one point in my life. So just identifying where to start from. When I started and I got, like, start being teased for that as well, now it was that time. For about a month or two, I just completely left exercising. But I came back with another self-realization. Like, it came in my mind, like, I'm not making this up, but everybody has this time when you suffer through something for a while, something strikes you and you need to listen to that. So what struck me was that, uh, if they're anyways going to teach me, why do I have to stop working out? Like, I can keep doing my thing
They're going
and
to give
then
me
be
shit
teased.
for it anyway. I might as well enjoy it.
Exactly. So this time I had that approach. This time I had
That's
that
your
approach.
strategy. That's your strategy. And I love that. That's a really good learning point for everybody. The strategy is, it doesn't matter what's ahead. as long as you're enjoying it, shit's going to happen, or it's going to be failure or success or learning, right? But
Right.
guaranteed. So you might as well enjoy the journey. I love that.
Exactly. Like thinking about what I had done at that time, thinking about it today, I still do it, but there's much more sense behind it. Because at that time when I started working out again, the purpose was a little bit of, that if they're going to tease me, I'm going to do it anyways, at least be teased when I'm working out, not without it. So at that time, the approach was that, and I started working out that, um, I started out working more aggressively. Now it was all that ego training that, okay, I'm going to do this exercise and I'm going to show these guys. So that was the aggressive side. That was not right. But even today, this thing is there in me that, if you're not good at something and you're being teased at something, like, even in the office, if someone makes fun of me, if I do some mistake, what I focus on is not that, they're making fun of me. What I focus on is that, okay, they're making fun of me because of this reason. I'm going to learn that. I'm going to progress. While I'm progressing for that, they'll make fun of me. It's okay. But at least I'm going to progress and one day be better than that. So when you focus on the progress, you forget about what the others are trying to do to you. So it's how I'm implementing that right now. So at that particular time in my childhood, I started working out a little bit more aggressively, but that again changed, and my life now, I would say, the part of my life when things really started to become all good in my life. So about a month I had continuously exercised that ego way of training. But there was one day when I had gone to the library, like we had a library class in the school. So I was in the library. I had already gone through all these sketching books, because at that particular time, all this bullying phase, I was trying to get used to sketching and doodling some things, because that was basically a way of distracting myself. But at that point, in the library, I had already gone through all these sketching books. So I went to the other rack. I was afraid of reading novels. I never liked novels or any other storybooks or something. So it took me guts to go to the other shelf. But somehow I got my hands on this book, which was like hidden behind the other books. And when I took it out, because it was hidden, like I was curious to see what that was. When I took it out and it read these secrets, so like my mind started to link all these things, like secret, hidden, what's going on? So I turned the book at the back side and I started to read that, you can attract anything in your life which you believe on, and things like about attraction and stuff. Reading about that caught my attention even more. But I wanted to be sure that it's not a novel. So I opened the content page and started to go through it. That was the point in my life when I felt like, this is going to be my savior. So I issued that book. I started reading that book whenever I was alone in my room, hostel room. And that's when I started to realize why things were going wrong in my life. Because probably when I was having that bad phase in my education, probably I was focusing on the previous bad results which I had got. Like previously, I got failed. The reason why I was not able to make friends was probably because I was focusing on, like, these people are so different. These people are so different. They're doing this and that. So that's why I wasn't able to make friends. And the reason why fitness wasn't working out for me the way it should have, like why I became aggressive towards fitness, I realized that maybe the approach towards fitness for me was wrong. Maybe I should not live like, when you're trying to do fitness, do it for fitness, not because of others. So that became my approach. And gradually, like within just a few months, I started to make friends. It was like my room, I was shifted to another room. So the new roommates became my friends. They taught me a lot of things. They taught me how to be adjusted in the hostel, and they taught me
Amazing.
things because of which just my friend circle kept increasing. And I was loved by the people eventually.
So,
Um,
like, this is all about energy. This
right.
really sounds like it. There's a lot about energy here.
Yeah.
Well, energy is everything, isn't it? It's
Right.
we are energy. Everything we see around us is energy. Everything that exists around us is energy.
Right.
And what I'm hearing is that you believe you actually attracted that
Right.
situation again and again, because of energy.
That's true. Yeah.
So realizing that
Actually,
we're responsible. The meaning
yeah.
of our communication is the response we get. Even the meaning of our thoughts is the response we
That's
get.
that's very
You know,
true.
very, very powerful stuff. Now, you went on then to like get super fit. You've got this amazing friend circle, and I think
Yeah.
you're just so adorable when you said, and then I went to university and I hadn't been around girls before. All of a sudden, I'm around girls and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, that was the situation. That's true. So when I had my education here in Fujairah, it was a co-ed school, but we had separate classes. I wasn't comfortable talking to girls because all we did here was just tease them and just go back to a boys' class and then just chill out.
But you
But
got
when I went,
actually, you went to a new class, didn't you? And the
yeah,
teacher sits you right next to a girl.
that's true. Like it was my first day in that new school in 10th standard. I was standing in front of this full class, which is combined girls and boys. And I was already shocked with that. I was just having my crossed fingers behind my back saying that, let me sit behind some, like beside some boy. And I did, like, I naturally just went and took a seat which was beside two guys, and I sat there. It was in sets of three. But when the class teacher came inside and she saw me, that I was the new student, she told me that, come here son, why are you sitting there, let me introduce you and stuff. So she introduced me and she made me sit special, like she made one guy got up from his seat and she made me sit between two girls. And I was sweating at that time. I had no clue if I have to say hi also and stuff. So
Wow. I mean, like
that
you're just, it's almost like, drop you in any situation and you just adjust.
it
I mean,
was
we do though, don't
uncomfortable.
we? We do.
It was uncomfortable at initially, like when the break time happened, when the lunch break happened, the initial two three guys whom I had talked to when I was sitting there in the class starting, they came over to me, they introduced me to their friend circle, and their friend circle also had girls. So they started, like, they made me comfortable, start to speak up a little bit. So gradually by the end of 12th grade I was comfortable with that. And I did, in the school life I had crush on two girls, but I didn't manage to get in a relationship with them because, like, it was awkward. Like, the girls whom I had a crush on, my friends proposed to them, and like they got into a relationship with the friend. It was too much interlink between friends, but it's fine because I was new. I understood that I had just got into a 10th grade. They were there since five or
I
seven
mean,
years
it
or something.
must be the weirdest situation. There you are. I mean, like, there's all kinds of stuff. All of a sudden, life is going really well for you.
Yeah,
Hormones are going, like, emotions are going. This
yeah,
whole new kind of sensory experience is now happening for you.
yeah.
Everything's going well. And then life changes in an instant when you
That's
go
true.
out on was it a motorbike?
Yes, it was a motorbike. Like, as we say, that life does not go in a straight line. It has ups and downs, but it's upon us if we want to enjoy that. It's upon us if we want to just fall in the fall. But so life started to become good. I became the co-art captain. I became the art captain in school life. School life went good.
Wow.
I was still bullied, but that never mattered to me. When I came into the university, I immediately got into a relationship. Like, life even went better now. So, but I was in second grade, and my sister was going to get engaged at that particular time. So my parents from UAE came to India. We had a celebration, and it was my last day for my father to be in India. He had to come back here. So he called me over for a family dinner in the house, and that's when I took another leave from my college. I was in the hostel in college as well. So I took leave and I went to my house and I saw this very cool bike standing in front of the house. Okay, that's where things started to go. Let's talk about that. So uh, I went inside the house and I started to request my parents that, let me just try that bike. I just want to have a feel of it. They started saying no, no, no again because like, it was night time and they didn't want me to try that bike just by myself and stuff. But I started requesting. That bike was bought by my sister's fiance, so he had parked that in front of the house. After requesting again and again, the last thing which I said was, okay, I'll just go nearby, just let me try it. So then they agreed for that for some time, and so I immediately went outside. Now, a little bit of the context about the environment around my house. I was living in a place which was completely deserted. Like, it was a new settlement in that place. So there were not many people in that place. It was November, the month of November. So it was winters going on. So most of the people in India, they close their shops and go back to their house early at night. And it was dark. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. I took the bike, and since all this context was there, I was not bothered that, there'll be too much traffic. I need to be safe or anything. So I didn't wear a helmet. My bad. So I took the bike. I went across, like, I was 3 or 4 lanes across my house. I started to get a phone call. I parked the bike just adjacent to the road. Like I got off road and I parked it like out of the road. I didn't want to be in a unsafe zone, and I didn't want to ride the bike and try
So
to listen
setting
to
the
the call.
scene at this point, you're not even on the bike. You're nowhere near the bike. You're just stood there looking at your phone.
I was parked beside the road. I was sitting
Yeah.
on the bike, but stationary.
Yeah.
So while I was taking out my phone and trying to go through the contacts who had called me, I was also noticing that there was a high-speed car sound, but I didn't know that it was coming towards me. Only when I started to notice that the car sound was increasing, I turned back just to see where it was, and it was right on the road which was beside me. So although I was out of the road, so I had nothing to worry about, but what concerned me was that it was actually coming right towards me, not on the road, but off road where the like it was all unpaved area, but it was coming
And this
towards
would
me.
have been in like split seconds, wouldn't it? I mean, you're
Yeah,
you're telling a story and it's got this long kind of, but this would have been just like bam, that's it.
just 2 3 seconds. Yeah, just 2 3 seconds. I noticed that the car is coming. I didn't even have the time to think about anything. So the accident happened immediately. The car came right towards me. It hit the bike on which I was sitting on, and the bike went forward, like went drifting on the road. And actually there was a curve on the road, so it was not completely straight. So because there was a curve, when it hit me, I went straight forward, airborne. Now we had cement pillars between the road, and I went airborne towards the pillar. Now why do I say airborne? Because when the accident happened, and even when I was recovering while I was in the hospital, there were no scratches on my body, but my face was completely covered in blood. So that explains it all. I went airborne 2 lanes across the road to hit a cement pillar. And that
Thank
cement pillar was broken into 3 pieces, and my face was broken into 14 pieces. So that was the
you.
impact.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
how long did it take you to recover through that? Because, I mean, you pretty much had to learn things all over again in some cases.
Indeed, indeed. There were like my recovery process. There was a moment when my grandmother said this, that, Vishal has had a second birth. Because at that particular moment when I was recovering, I had to learn how to walk again because my balance was off. There was one moment when my jaws were opened a bit just to try soft food. Like, believe me, when I took the first bite, it was Oreo biscuits. I'll explain that later. But I took Oreo biscuits because I loved them so much at that particular time. I wanted to try that as my first food, which would go into my body after
Why
four
not?
months. Yeah. So I took that Oreo biscuit and I was sitting with my mother trying to eat it. Now, when I took that Oreo biscuit, it went towards my chin, and my mother was just watching me what I'm doing. I took the second Oreo biscuit just to dip it in milk, and I brought it towards my mouth, but it went towards my cheek, and I had no clue what was happening. And my mother is watching me with shock. What am I doing? So she was like, "Why are you doing this?" I was like, "I don't know. I'm bringing towards my mouth, right?" And she was like, "No, you're not bringing towards your mouth." So what we realized was for 4 to 5 months, I was in ICU and I had not opened my mouth to do anything because it was locked. So I had completely forgotten where my mouth was. So I was even
Oh
trying to
my
learn how to eat.
gosh.
So I was trying to learn how to walk. I was trying to learn how to eat, and I couldn't see properly. Even today, I'm trying to figure that out. So there were so many things because of which my grandmother said that, he has a second birth, so he has to learn everything all over again. I completely agree with that. So yeah, the recovery was almost 5 months long. The surgery went on for 7 days. So that's another thing. Um, Coming back to the story, like I would love to tell you from the impact, because that's the moment from where I had learned 6 good lessons in my life, which I follow even today, because that's something which I would love to share with the people. Um, I'll just go step by step with the story,
Please,
with the
yeah,
lessons.
please do. And I'll make some banners up as you're talking of the
All right.
light bulb moments. And guys and girls,
Awesome.
like, comment if there's something that's impacting you as part of this story. Please share it. After what Vishal has been through, I think some positivity and some comments of support would be fantastic. Okay, Vishal, hit us with it. These 6 things that you really kind of mastered over that period of time.
Right. So I told you that I had met an accident and in which my face was completely shattered. Now, nobody could recognize me in that situation because my face was covered in blood, plus it was distorted because of the impact. At that particular time, I told you that the place was completely deserted, but exactly at where the incident happened, there was a road which was on the perpendicular side, and we had the security guard which was of our colony who takes night rounds just to ensure safety and security. So he saw that incident happening right in front of him, and he was on a cycle. He rushed towards me, tried to find out where I was. When he found me, he started to scream for help. There were two vegetable sellers who were taking their cart back home. They were far away, but when they heard this cry and they also heard the bang, they came back towards that sound, like wherever they were hearing the help sound. And now I was with these three people. I was completely unconscious. Like the last thing which I remember was turning back and seeing a big white color SUV. Uh, I was unconscious and I was there with these three people. Now that's where I start to learn the lessons from my life. The first lesson or the first mantra is never judge anybody. Never judge anybody because of their appearance, because of their educational background, because of their financial status, whatever it may be. Just do not judge anyone, because you never know what that person really is made up of, and you can never underestimate someone. Why do I say that? Because if I was in that situation, I would be clueless what to do. Like if I found a person in that situation. Now, I'll tell you what happened. The guard which was there who found me first, he immediately searched for my pocket and he found out my cell phone. He tried to open that up, but it had a screen lock. Okay. So when it had a screen lock at that particular time, I would have been blank. But that guy, he never had, like, he never went to school and he never did anything of such sort that you can judge that, okay, he has a good IQ or something. But he took out my phone, it had a screen lock. He didn't think about it. Immediately, he just broke my phone in some way, just trying to remove the SIM card from it. He put the SIM card in his own mobile to get the contacts. So that's smart enough to like have this lesson in your life that you're not supposed to judge anyone, because he was smart enough to do that. You never know whom you're meeting, and like you're underestimating them. So immediately open up the contact list and he dialed the first contact. And that's probably where the second lesson came into my life. It comes even further in the story. The second lesson is that when you desperately want something in your life, when you're in need of something which is really important for you, and of course is for a positive cause, whether you call it God or whether you call it a superpower, whatever you may consider, that hears that energy, as you said, and some sort of a help is sent for you. So at that particular time, like those three guys at least wanted me to be alive, and like there were prayers with me which wanted like that to happen. So probably because of that energy, the first contact that he dialed was of my immediate senior. He lived far away from my house, but at that particular incident, he was nearby. So some people call it coincidences. Like some people who do not believe in magic, they would call it a coincidence. But wait until I tell you the rest of my story. So that senior was nearby, and he was called and told that, you know, whomever this number is, he's in a serious condition and stuff. So because of the reflex, like he didn't know what to do, he immediately just said that, okay, this hospital is nearby, bring him to this hospital, I'll keep everything arranged. So he cut the phone, failing to notice that he didn't ask how they'll bring me there, because one guy, the guard, was on a cycle and the other two just had their manual carts, and the colony was deserted. Now again, for those people who consider that coincidence, cars were going by the incidents, but none of the cars stopped, because in India, like if people see the blood, most probably they're either disgusted by that, or most probably they're scared to fall in some kind of a law issue or something. So none of the people had stopped, like the four or five cars, but the car which came after that had two people in it, one the owner and the other was the friend. uh, the colony guard which I told you, who spotted me first, he used to meet me almost twice a week, so he knew me well, but he couldn't recognize my face. But that guy who was sitting in the car, who was on the passenger seat, he made the owner stop the car, saying that, you know, I think I know this guy, I think I know him, just stop and we have to take him to help. So he tried to convince the driver that, you know, put him into the car. He was telling that, no, I'll not put it because my car would get dirty and stuff. Somehow he convinced for that. The passenger guy, he convinced that, you know, I'll get it cleaned, I'll make sure you'll not get into trouble and stuff. They put me into the car. That particular guy who said that he knew me was basically my mother's friend's son, whom I had never seen, but I do not know how he knew me. So uh, he put me into the car. They took me to the hospital. Now, in the meanwhile, I'll just tell you something which is out of this. Uh, Things really bad can happen in your life. Like even when you're doing something so good, my parents at that particular time within the house, my father was sitting in front of the praying spot in our house. He was doing his evening prayer, and my mother was in the kitchen cooking family dinner for everybody. Now something so drastic can happen even when they're doing something good. Like my senior calls from the hospital to my parents, says that your son has met an accident and he's being rushed to the hospital, just come immediately. My father got the call while he was praying, and my mother was there in the kitchen, and like my sister, fiance, everybody was in a happy situation. But all of a sudden everything just changed, and they immediately rushed to the hospital. Okay, so now I was in the hospital. I was taken into the emergency ward. They performed a cut on my right eyebrow top right here. So as soon as they performed the cut, like they made the cut and they saw the skull, it was completely shattered. It's strange, but the doctors immediately said that they cannot perform the surgery. They said that it's too complex for them. I was cut open. I had already lost a lot of blood, and I was cut open in that situation. Now again, it's about, how immediately can you think about what you can do. So my father had, while he was reaching to the hospital, he had called his friends over, and so they were there in this situation, and one of my father's friends suggested that, okay, let's take him to that hospital. There is a specialist who performs complex cases. He's a neurosurgeon. So that was the decision which we made. Again, for those people who call coincidence, uh, the hospital people, they offered their ambulance because the city was like completely filled with traffic. So now it was like I had to rush immediately to the hospital. So the hospital guys offered their ambulance to allow me to reach to that hospital immediately. I reached on time, and I was immediately taken to the emergency ward, the surgery room, and the surgery began. Since that moment on, that hospital was far away from our house. So my parents reached to the hospital, and for 7 days they didn't leave the hospital. They didn't even come back home to have dinner or have some rest because they were concerned. And they were in this painful situation. And this, I always say, and I agree that it was not as hard as my parents as it was for me. Like my parents had been going through a very tough situation. I was going through none of it. So I was completely unconscious. I didn't know what was happening, but they were watching all of that. So it's much harder for them. 7 days they stayed in the hospital, and every time the doctor used to come out of the surgery room, he used to say to my parents that, he's not going to be safe, but we are still trying. Hearing that might break you at any particular moment, but my parents had nothing but just like they had their prayers to make. And in the meanwhile, of course, like support came from everywhere. One of my high school friends, not even from college, one of my high school friends who was living nearby, I don't know how he got to know it, but his parents offered their house keys to my parents, saying that, you can anytime go to our house, have some rest, cook some food. Uh, that's a different fact that my parents didn't go. Um, but like they used to come to the hospital, take my parents, like made sure that they were also resting for a while. So
Well,
after
that's
seven
amazing.
days,
What I'm hearing there is that not only if we have faith, help will be on its way. The universe,
that's true.
God, spirit, source,
Yeah,
whatever you call it,
that's true.
is it's gonna be there. It's that it's if you think about nature, everything about nature, it wants to keep us alive. It
That's
wants us
true.
to thrive. The body wants to
Yeah,
rebuild itself. That we're meant to live a full life so that we can continue creating life on the planet and supporting life on the planet. And yet here you are, kind of broke and broken, and your parents are hearing that message from somebody, yet they
right.
still had faith. You,
There's another deep message behind this. It's not just about, like, it's obviously about faith, but it's also about patience. Because if you're impatient in such a situation, you might panic and you might do something which you're not meant to do. So patience is another key. Now, as I said, for 7 days I was there in the hospital, and the surgery was being performed on me. After 7 days of hearing the bad news every time from the surgeon, finally on the seventh day, the doctor came out to say to my parents that, okay, he's finally in the safe zone and we can save him. So that was a relief sign for my parents. And since then, I was there, like I was transferred to the ICU and I was being taken care of. My parents used to stay with me in the ICU room, and probably after a month or two, I had finally opened my eyes. And when I did open my eyes, my parents were there in front of me. I did tell you that positivity became a permanent part of my life since school. Another thing which had also become in me was that I never wanted to see anyone be upset or depressed in front of me. Like that just became natural in me. That became somewhere like, what's your purpose in life? So that felt like my purpose. Somewhere I felt like God has sent me to make people happy. That just came into my head in childhood because of my grandfather. Like that's a story I'll hit into some other time. But that felt like my purpose, that I have to make everybody happy. So when I woke up and I could see my mother and my father behind my mother just watching me when I was opening my eyes, they just went into tears that I opened my eyes. And inside my head, I knew that I was there in the hospital. I could see everything. I could feel that bandage is there all around me, like on my face and stuff. But consciously I was thinking about, why is my mother crying? I need to make her calm down. I need to make her happy instantly, regardless of thinking that, what happened to me, why am I here. None of that came in my head. So one of my hand was plastered like heavily so that I couldn't move it. One of my hand was tied to the bed. This happened because while I was there in the ICU, unconsciously I used to pull the small pipes which they used to put in my chest. I didn't know I was doing that, but for that reason the doctors had to tie my hands like that. So even though I was in that situation, I tried to wave at my mother. I tried to smile a little, but then she started crying more. So I knew that things are going according to my plan. So I stopped and I was like, okay, just calm down and stuff. I couldn't speak. My jaw was locked and there was bandage around my face, almost half of it.
I mean, it
And
must have been devastating for your
yeah,
parents to witness that. Just so you know, we're already over on the show time, so I want to make sure that we get to. You said there are 6 mantras, and we've
right.
done 2, so I want to get into the last 4 mantras if we can in the time that
Okay,
we've got.
sure. No issues. So there was a part in my life when I started to have less faith on friendships. When I was shifted from this school to boarding school to college, I was never contacted by my friends whenever I left the place. So that made me feel that, friendships are not for real. So I didn't have faith on like anybody cares, like friendships are not real. But at that particular time when I was there in the ICU, my parents started to test my memory. So they started to ask me like, do you remember me? Do you remember me and stuff? And I used to say that yes, like I couldn't open my mouth, but I could say mummy, papa, something like that. So they were happy with that. But then came the third lesson in my life when I had never faith on friendships or like if people actually care for you. That came as a lesson in my life because while I was there in the ICU, almost everybody from my college, my juniors, my seniors, my faculty, even from high school, people like everybody came to meet me on every day. Like they came into groups so that they could fit into that ICU room. That basically overwhelmed me and it gave me my third lesson in life, which is never feel alone. Like people do care for you. They might not be able to express it, but they do care for you. There are so many people who go into a depression thinking that they're alone and stuff, they're alone in this fight and stuff. But people do care. They might not be able to express it, but never feel lonely. Even if it's not your friends, your parents are there with you. So that's the bottom line. After that, I had been going through the recovery phase. I was there in the hospital. The I used to weekly go to the neurosurgeon doctor to have my results checked and everything. So he used to tell me what had happened to me. He told me that I had fractures, which was fixed by titanium plates, which will stay in me and stuff. And after that, since I had stayed for such a long time in the hospital, my mother didn't like it. She started to request the doctor that let me take him to the house. The doctors agreed that you can keep him for a week, and so they agreed for it. And I was taken to the house, and I was told to have complete bed rest, like strict bed rest. And my mother was going to take care of me. Now I'm slowly coming down to the fourth lesson as well, which is so for a week I was taken care by my mother. Um, After a week, I was taken back to the hospital. Now, because of the accident, I had lost lots of blood in my brain. The blood count, like the doctors explained this to me, that the blood count is supposed to be 12 grams in your brain, but I had gone down to 7 grams because of the accident. In 4 months of recovery within the hospital, I had gone up to 8.5 to 9 grams. And in this 1 week, when I was in the house taken care just by my mother, I was taken back to the hospital for my checkup after a week, which they promised. So we had our checkups. The results were in the front of the doctor, and the doctor was shocked. He was like having a blank face. He looked like he just stared right into my mother's eyes, and we were scared because I was there on a wheelchair feeling scared as well. And my mother was like, if something bad has happened, we'll keep him in the hospital and stuff, just say something. The doctor said that, whatever you have done is not normal. And then he said that the results are out and his blood count has gone from 9 grams to 11 grams. And we have no clue how you managed to do that in the house all by yourself. So that brings me to a fourth lesson, which most of the people do know because they feel love for their mother. But this is the fourth lesson that, whatever you may be, a big professional businessman or anything, your mother knows best. So if it's related to you, your mother knows best. So that's the fourth lesson, and that's something really important to keep. After that, the doctors agreed for me to be in the house to recover, and gradually with time, there were incidents happening with me. Like, for example, like I'm sitting right now. One day I was feeling bored, so my mother brought me my cell phone and my earplugs just to listen to some music or something. While I played music, I was removing the earplugs like this and like this. So when I removed it from my left ear, I observed that I couldn't hear from this because I was feeling that the music was strange. So I felt that, maybe I should change the earplugs. So when I was just removing it, I observed that, this one, like even now, I'm just putting this for the show. So at that particular time, I found out that, the left ear is not working. So
Wow.
gradually,
So the trauma of it, actually, you've gone deaf in that ear.
yeah. So there were
Wow.
incidents happening when I was gradually noticing the damage which was because of the accident. I observed that the left ear wasn't working. One day, like my mother noticed that whenever I used to look her, like without moving my face, when I used to look her just with the eyes, she noticed that one of my eyes was just levitating some other place, like out of control. And she was asking me like, why are you doing that? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So what had happened was, because of the impact, it was face first. So one of my eyes had shifted, and since then, like even now, my face is not symmetrical. Like I think you might have noticed that one of the eyes is a little bit down. So
Wow.
yeah, because of that, I
Wow.
had double vision. Because of that, I had double vision, and I still do. So um, because of that double vision, like at that particular time, I didn't know that I had double vision. So I used to just try to focus on things, which because of which I had this habit of looking from just my right eye, and my left eye used to just levitate somewhere else. So I had a lazy eye basically. One day when my mother was trying to test like if I can smell, so she was sitting with her food just trying to have some fun with me. So she told me that, try smelling this food without looking at it. So I was like just trying to do that. That slowly and steadily, like how we got to know that I couldn't even smell. So my sense of smelling was gone, my left ear didn't work, and I had double vision. But wait until the fourth medical condition. Like when I was recovering, I was with my neurosurgeon doctor. That's when he told me a very critical medical condition. He told me that since you had a brain swelling because of the accident, you're still recovering from that swelling, but throughout your life, you would not be allowed to have any serious stress or any serious depression. You're not allowed to have any strong emotions, be it stress, depression, anger, joy, extra happy, extra excited, none of that. Why? Because he said that if you'll have those emotions, your brain will swell up again, and you'll come into a medical like state where you'll have to be
Oh
admitted
my
in the hospital.
God. I mean,
So
they never actually caught the driver that did this to you, did they? He's
no.
still out there, and you have no remorse for this person, which I think that's another part of the growth, isn't it? Really, is you completely forgave that person.
The,
It's unbelievable.
Actually, the area where the incident happened, our colony was just settling. Like it was a new settlement, no cameras or anything. Nobody found out who the driver was, and the car never stopped after hitting me. The car just went on. So neither did I bother. Like who was the guy? Why does that matter to me? Like he's not going to come and like cure me or anything. So why do I have to bother about what's not important?
All right, let's get to mantras 4 and 5 because we've got
Yeah,
about 2 minutes left.
almost there.
Really
Almost
quick.
there. Almost there. Okay. So I'll come down to the fifth mantra. Okay. The fifth mantra is about like never give up. because I was there in this condition. Like, never give up is something which is very easily said nowadays, but let me tell you with my life story, because never give up is just not never give up. You can change that mantra 5 to never give up, regardless of whatever condition you may be in. Because at that particular time, I had this pipe on in my nose, which was a nasal pipe through which all the medicines and everything was put into. For 4 months, I didn't have any food in my body because everything was liquid, like the medicines which were being put was through that pipe. I was in a very critical condition. There was one day when I was standing in front of the mirror, like I was on bed rest. Anyways, I'll just cut short this part. I was standing in front of the mirror. I tried to open up my shirt and I was shocked looking at myself. I was completely skinny, lost all my gains, could see my rib cage, couldn't see any muscles, could just see bones in my arms, and I was devastated. But immediately I just snapped back to it. Like, I was okay. I'll start immediately and I'll recover all those gains even faster. 4 years of gains, I'll make it in 4 months. Like, that was the determination. So another incident which I can tell you for this fifth mantra just quickly is that, I there was a time when I immediately realized that my college was also going on, so I had to give my exams. So I started to request everybody to allow me to go and give my exams, although I hadn't studied. Like, I had just attended my third semester for 2 weeks, but I wanted to give the exams. I told my mother that I'll not sit in the same semester without even trying. So I was stubborn enough for that. I got permissions and stuff. A special paper was arranged for me. I was there standing in front of the college. My sister on my left, my mother on my right, supporting me to walk. There was nasal pipe in my nose, banded around my head, but I was there ready to give my exam. My friends offered me that, we'll help you cheat. Uh, but when I went into the examination hall, I did none of it. I answered all the answers by myself, got cleared, got through the exam, got into the next semester without any delay. That's the fifth lesson. Coming down to the sixth lesson, the sixth mantra, which is positivity. Now, positivity, how do I put this fifth mantra is that, things in your life can be very bad. It can be so negative, but regardless of how bad the situation is, if you have the right amount of positivity, you can convert that bad phase or that bad current situation in your life into something so beautiful that you will cherish all your life. Now, I was going through these 5 or 4 medical conditions in my life at that particular time. But the way how I changed it with positivity, now, a positive approach is all you need. I always try to give this example because it's so beautiful, that when you were a child and when you were crying, your parents might come up to you and quickly distract with you some soft toy or something else, and you would immediately snap out of it, like forget that you were even crying or you got hurt, and you would feel happy. So that's something which everybody should learn even when they're grown up. So when I was there with those medical conditions, how I made my life so beautiful is, regardless of the double vision, for that I have these specs, which is like prism specs, which help me look a little bit more clearly. um, for the fact that I couldn't hear from my left ear, I took it as an advantage that whenever I'm sitting in class, I just have to close my one ear and I can still work with the other hand. So I felt it as an advantage. For the fact that I couldn't smell, I felt it as an advantage that whenever I'm in the gym, I don't have to suffer because of anybody. Like, if I
Offensive
can,
smells.
yeah, if I cannot smell the good stuff, I'm glad that I cannot smell the bad stuff. So that's the best part in my life. um, for the fact now about that medical condition about my brain, I'm really happy that I got it, because that's the way how I approached it. The doctors told me not to have serious emotions, but with my positivity I had a little tweak in it. I told myself that, if I'll be happy or overjoyed, I'll allow that to come out because it's positive. But for all the other rest of the negative things, I'll just have a more positive approach. If someone is trying to make me angry, I'll just try to crack a joke, try to change the situation. Did that every time. This has helped me to become the best student for my faculties in college, their favorite student. Has helped me to stay neutral throughout my life, has helped me stay calm and positive throughout. So that medical condition basically made me a positive person, which makes me feel so happy today. Like, I'm least bothered about the problems because I have that approach. That became my character. Now, these were the 6 mantras, but how I sum it up together is that it's not the seventh lesson. It's just to sum everything up. It's about my life. That for anybody who's listening right now, life can end at any particular moment, because it did for me. It almost ended. So life can end at any particular moment. Just live your life, just live every moment. If you have positivity by your side, regardless of how bad the situation is, if you're having an argument with your relationship, within your relationship, if you're going through a very bad financial status, whatever the problem may be, if you just have this thing in your mind that life is not going to be forever, try to enjoy this. Even if you're in a problem, enjoy that, like enjoy the process of improving it. So after that, life just becomes the best life. It's no longer just life, it's the best life.
I love that, Vishal. There's so many lessons in there, and wow, I can't believe we managed to condense it all into an hour, like a whole lifetime.
Right.
Unbelievable. But I love these mantras, just to repeat them again. So mantra 1: never judge anybody because of their appearance, their culture, their background, or who they are. You just never know what that person has been through to get where they are. You don't know what they're made of. Mantra 2: when you desperately want something in your life, or you're in need of something that's important to you, have faith that it is on its way, or that help is on its way.
Right.
Mantra 3: never feel alone. People do care for you, even if they don't always express it. Mantra 4: whatever you may be, no matter how big you are, no matter how grown up you are, tall, fat, slim, whatever, whoever you are, your mother always knows best. She knows how to love you, right? In most cases, anyway. Mantra 5: never give up, regardless of whatever condition you might be in, whatever life situation, whatever business situation you are in. It's not always going to be like that. So just keep going. And mantra 6, topping that up with stay positive. The situation that you're in right now might not feel positive at all, but with positive thinking, you can turn that situation around, and the negative things that are happening, you can look at those and find out where's the lesson in this. What is the lesson I need to learn? What is this that I've gone through? If you can unpack it, what are some of the things you can learn from that? I just want to share my screen, because you see, like, Vishal went from pretty much like his whole face was broken, his head was in pieces, and yet now I just want to congratulate you, Vishal, that this is Vishal now, totally rebuilt his life. He's fit, he's healthy, still can't hear anything, still no sense of smell, but you're giving blessings for those things. I think I'd be giving blessings for some of those things as well. And I just highly encourage you to connect with Vishal. I've put his details up on the screen there. For those of you that are listening in, if you go to Instagram, you can contact Vishal at v.s_ironfit. Okay, so v.s_ironfit, and you can link to him on Facebook if you go to ar.Vishal Soni. That's ar.Vishal Soni. So go and put that in the little search bar at the top of the group. You can also obviously come to my Sammy Blundell official page, and Vishal is he's going to be tagged into the interview, so you can always come back here and subscribe to the page so that you can listen to all of these amazing confessions as we go through this. Vishal, I think your entire life has been a confession, so I don't need to ask you what your confession is that you're bringing with you today. I just want to celebrate you and champion this journey that you've been through, and it's one that I wanted our tribe to hear. It, there's so many things we go through in life, there's so many things we go through in business. It's that having that faith that it won't always be that way, having that faith that help is on its way, and that there is, life wants you to be as successful. God, source, spirit, energy, it all wants you to be as successful as you can be. I think sometimes the shit is thrown at us so that it can test us as how much we want it.
Yeah.
And things can happen. in life and business where you think, oh, you know, and I've said it before, go on, throw another thing at me. Come on, throw another thing. Just keep loading it on. A friend of mine, she once said to me, Sammy, it takes good doo-doo to grow good roses. I think, you know, the other thing that you were saying earlier in this interview where you were talking about, you know, feel it, that energy that you were putting into your fitness was coming from a real place of kind of ego and fighting energy. And the compare and despair thing can do that to you. I remember another friend of mine a few years ago, actually it was about 6 years ago, when I was I'd walked away from my 7.8 million business. I was just broken. I was a mess. I was burned out. I didn't want to be in business anymore. It broken me because I wasn't doing things the way I do them now. I learned a lot of lessons. Like you say, I was able to unpack the things. How did I end up there? Like, what was it that led me to that point? And so I got to, you know, have some time to really go through that and experience it and feel into it. And, you know, I've built Brand Builders Club based on this whole thing, right? Everything that I've built now is based on what I went through then. But I remember when I started How to Build a Brand, it must be about 6.5 years ago now. And I was looking at all these other gurus online, these other experts, and thinking, oh, I feel like there's no point in me even starting. They're all way ahead of me. And, you know, look at them. They've got all these businesses. Look at what they're doing, all this influence, all the impact that they're making. Oh, you know, should I even bother? And I remember having these thoughts, and I remember sharing them with a friend of mine. And she said, Sammy, don't even think about what other people are doing. Let the light be your sword. And it was such a moment for me where I remember thinking, well, isn't that interesting? You know, all these other people, they're kind of cutting each other up and they're, you know, trying to overtake each other, and it's quite aggressive, and there's this whole hustle to get to the top, and got to be here and got to be there, and it's this have to, got to, you know, get to, and they're all striving for this thing. She said, Sammy, you've just got to shine the brightest for who you are. Let the light be your sword. You don't have to cut anyone down because your light will already do that. And I thought, wow, isn't that just wonderful? And you've kind of embraced that whole philosophy without even knowing it. It's just you. It's just who you are. Vishal, I'm just Esmail, amazing interview filled with lessons to practice every day. Absolutely. Thank you for joining the show, Esmail. Is there anything as we wrap up? I know we've gone over today, but it was just the lessons were just too important to stop it. Anything that you would love to leave our viewers and our listeners with today, Vishal?
I would probably say that, first of all, as you mentioned, it's about the best version of yourself, and that is something which I have focused on throughout that whole process, and even today. That's something which is my target for future as well. It's not about becoming better than that, better than this, because that's a part of almost everybody. Also, what goes along with that is when you start to become the best version of yourself, try to focus on the process rather than the destination. Like, if you start loving the growth, like if you start noticing the growth which you have made from yesterday, you would start falling in love with what you're doing. So that's something really important, and something which I would ask everybody to. And right now, even today, I still go through these medical conditions, but in the morning, daytime, I'm an architect. I work in an office for someone. By evening, I'm a fitness coach. I have minimum rest, but I try to get my required rest. But I'm a fitness coach, through which I'm trying to help people out using the experiences which I had. So it's not just about physical fitness that I try to teach people. It's about mental health and physical health, which I try to provide people together so that I can implement my lessons for them.
I love it. I love your story. I love everything about you. You're just delightful to have on the show. Guys and girls watching this live, listening to this live, watching the replay, listening to the replay. If you know of somebody who is looking for a speaker, is looking to interview them on a podcast or on a show like this, please reach out to Vishal. reach out to that person and just let's get this message out, because it's a message of hope that I think a lot of people need to hear. Vishal, thank you for sharing everything that you have on this journey with us, for shining your light on us. Thank you to those of you that have tuned in, that are supporting Vishal on his journey as well. Just even by listening to it, you're taking it in for yourself, but you're also giving back to Vishal as well. So embrace it, get out there and start doing what you love and loving what you do, because as Vishal says, never give up regardless. You don't know how long we've got left. We might have 1 hour, we might have 1 day, we might have 1 week, 1 year, might have 100 years, but let's make sure that we fill that dash between our day that we were born and the day that we die. Let's fill that dash with all of the lovely, juicy things that we were born to do, regardless of what other people think. Because as you say, Vishal, they're going to think it anyway. So you might as well enjoy the journey.
That's true.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. We're going to be back live, same time, same place tomorrow. So we're going live via 5 locations right now. So wherever you're tuning in from, come back 5 p.m. tomorrow. That's British time, so whatever time 5 p.m. is in London for you, then work that out. And please subscribe to the show, and if there has been any part of this show that you really enjoy, please share it and tell others about it. Let's get the message to the masses that you are not alone. You don't have to go through this on your own, and there are lessons that we can learn from others without having to learn them ourselves. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful morning, day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Sending you big love, and I'll see you for tomorrow's show. Mwah. Take care.